So in this video we'll be seeing that tracking engagement of page elements in Google Tag Manager. Now it's exactly as it sounds in the name. We are literally just tracking page elements on the website. So I'll show you what it means, how to set it up, and then we'll even see a use case for it. Alright. So let's say I go to preview. I click connect. So now I'm on my page, right? But if I scroll down, I can see that I reach the about page, but still my URL isn't changing. My URL is still the same. One second, you can't see the URL right now. One second. So as you can see, I'm on the home page now, and this is my URL. But if I were to scroll down and reach the about page on scroll, my URL is still the same because it's the same page. It's just different elements or different sections in the same page. So if I were to even go to facts or skill section, and even the resume section, my URL won't be changing. It's still saying this, staying the same. So how do I track that how much time a user has spent on the home page, how much they have spent on the about page, or how much they have spent on the resume section of the page? All right. So to do this, we could use a trigger, which is the element visibility trigger, right? So what I could do is I could just select this. We have already seen how to work with CSS selectors, right? You just select this, go to inspect, and it will already be highlighted for you. Just right click on it and copy selector. This is how we have worked with selectors till now. So we'll do the same here as well. Go to Google Tag Manager and in triggers, create a new trigger, which will be our element visibility. So selection method, you could select ID as well, but I'll be using CSS selector here. And this is where you paste the element selector. So we'll go back to our page. This was selected, copy, copy selector, and I'll just paste it here, right? Then when do you want to fire this trigger? Once per page, so once every time the page is loaded, once per element, once every time this element loads, or every time an element appears on the screen. So every time this element appears on the screen, you want it to fire. Suppose if I were to go down and again come back up, so it is appearing again, right? So it would fire again. Let's say I keep it to once per page for now, and minimum percent visible. So how much of this element should be visible in the page? So like if I were to scroll down very carefully, you could see about 50% is visible, right? So this, you could set this as the minimum amount, that this is the minimum amount that should be visible for this trigger to fire. Right now I'll set it to, second, I'll set it to 100. I need the whole element to be present there. Then set minimum on-screen duration. For how many milliseconds do you want this element to be on the page so that the trigger fires? Suppose I set it to 2000 milliseconds, which is 2 seconds. So if this element appears on my page for 2 seconds, then this trigger will fire. And then there's observe DOM changes as well, which I'll explain later when I come to the use case. Then again, this trigger fires on all visibility events or some visibility events. You could set it like that as well. So we have done this previously. For now, I'll just set it to all visibility events, and we'll name this element visibility home. Now similarly, I want to make a trigger for the about page as well. So let's say I copy the selector for this. So this will be highlighted. Right click, copy, copy selector. Again, create a new. Then element visibility, selection method CSS selector, and paste this here. So we'll work with the same values and just name this as EV about. Save. Now let's set some tags to them. Right. Firstly, let's just check if it's working or not. I'll just close this, preview. As you can see, this element is now visible. So the element visibility event has occurred here. No tags have fired yet because we have not set any tags yet to it. But you can see. Next, Alex Smith. Yeah. And if I were to scroll down, and this element was visible now. Yeah, now the element has changed to this, which is our second trigger. So as we know, if you go to the summary, the data layer shows you the most current values. So if I were to refresh this site, element visibility. If I go to summary now and check the data layer, you can see element is, it ends with align item center hero, right? But then again, if I were to scroll down and reach this page and then go to summary, you can see the element has changed. Now it ends with H3. So we have verified that this works. Now let's just set a tag to it. We'll set the trigger that we created, EV home. Name this GA4 EV home. Right, save it. Let's just test it now. Connect. So this element is now visible on the website. So the tag should have fired. Continue. Element visibility. And we can see the EV home tag has fired. And similarly, I could set a tag to the other trigger as well, and that would fire too when the user goes to the about page and that element is visible. I'll show that as well. About G, G4 about, and we'll set the about trigger to this. To preview. So we are on the home page, so EV home trigger should have fired. Yeah, sorry, the EV home tag should have fired, and it has fired. And now if we go on to the about page, right? Now you might be wondering why hasn't the EV about tag fired as well, because we even went to the about page and the element was visible there as well. And also in the event section, if you see, only there's one element visibility event occurring, whereas there should be two of them occurring, right? Now this is where the DOM changes feature comes into play, right? So I'll explain what it is. We go here and go to our about trigger that we had created. You can see this option, right? Observe DOM changes. Now what are DOM changes? So if I were to just see, when I scroll down, you can see that this part, this element, it it transitioned in, right? It wasn't already set there. It came in later. If I were to refresh and show again, alright, see, it transitions in. It's not already present there. So when the site loads, it's not already there. It comes in later when I scroll down to it. So that is what your observe DOM changes does. When the page loads, and after that if some changes happens, that's what it observes, and it listens for that. So I'll keep this on. You can read here. So this is just a warning that selected options may affect the site performance. It's always better to be through with all this. So yeah, now I've selected the observed DOM changes, and now let's see what happens. So if I were to close the preview and start it again, connect. And now if you notice, we have two element visibilities event happening. One for the home one where this element was visible, and second where this element was visible. And since we have kept absorb DOM changes on this time, even the second element visibility was present here. So yeah, you can see that the tag associated with it fired as well, whereas previously it did not fire the about tag. So this is what your observe DOM changes feature does. And summary data layer again, if you go, you'll get the second one, because we know that data layer gives the current values, and we had only set it once per element, right? Now if I had set it to, suppose if I went here and home, suppose if I had set it to every time an element appears on the screen, so what would happen? I'm here, right? I'm listening for this element. Now if I went down and came back here, I would get an additional element visibility event happening here. So that is what this option does, but we have ticked it off for now. So this is how you track element visibility on your page. And one major use case for this is in forms. Suppose when you have a form submission, for example, you'll have a form submission that looks like this, right? You'll have the name, email, password, date of birth. This is just a very basic example of a form, right? But you might notice that if you keep something empty, you will get a error message that says this field cannot be empty, but still it is considered as a form submit event because you have clicked submit. And even in this case, when you get form successfully submitted, when you click submit, so even that is a form submission event. So both of these are a form submission event, right? But now if I want to track how many forms actually went through, how many forms were actually successfully submitted, all, even then I could use this element visibility trigger, right? I could just select this element, inspect it, and get it CSS selector, and repeat this same process over here. Like for example, I could change the name to EV form unsuccessful, and then copy the selector of this part, the error part, and paste it in the element selector. And similarly I could do it for form successfully submitted as well. So this is one important use case that you could use with this trigger. Also, an important thing to keep in mind while working with forms and element visibility is that to keep the observe DOM changes option ticked on, because your basic form, it will look like this, right? But then if there's something wrong, or if you have not entered some value and click submit, only then you'll get this option. So that means there are some changes after the page has loaded. And similarly in this case as well, if it's successfully submitted, you'll get this message, which means again there are some changes. So you'll have to keep the observe DOM changes button ticked for this. So yeah, this was all for the video. We saw how to set up element visibility triggers and how to link tags to them. And we also saw one important features, which was the observe DOM changes, which after a site has loaded and if there are any changes, it listens for that. So yeah, thank you for watching.